So yeah, folks, we got Jason Belmonte here. It's an honor to have you here, and I think it's safe to say the consensus is you're in the conversation for the greatest bowlers in the history of the sport. And
he's the greatest. He's the greatest.
Again, it's an honor to have you here. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
And I think a good place to start. Take us through your life and your career, like what has stood out to you from your perspective, just from like the start up until now.
Look, I started when I was a year and a half old. Parents built a bowling centre when I was born, and the balls were too heavy when I was that little, and so I wanted to still do everything on my own and do it by myself. So I'd pick this ball up off the rack and kind of just carry it and shuffle to the line and then just throw it down the lane. And I just developed this kind of technique and fell in love with the game. And then as I was getting older, I was getting better, and I just wanted to do it all day long. Even to this day, I feel like if I don't bowl after a period of time, I definitely get little withdrawals and I get a little cranky. So that love and passion has never faded. But yeah, as the career kind of unfolded, I would jump, skip, and hop to the next place. Started in Australia and bowling all around Australia. Orange Tempin is where it started, that's home, and then I would go to Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and Perth, and I would travel around there and was doing really well. And then I wanted to challenge myself a little more, so I went to Asia and Europe and then even the US for the amateur scene. And I was doing really well, and so the last place that I really wanted to do well was a PBA tour.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, and on that note, how has it felt to reach the top? I'm sure there's a lot of big emotions that come with that. How has it felt for you when it's really stood out in that regard?
That's a good question, and how it feels to get there. I don't really know how to answer that because I'm still amongst it all, and so I try to never allow myself to get too complacent. I never want to think I'm at the very top of the mountain because then you stop climbing. And with the guys on tour, it's very, very easy to get bypassed. They're so brilliant. And so I try to keep myself very focused on always lifting the top of that mountaintop a little higher and just always feeling like I've never quite got there. So I think for me, and really allowing myself to feel those feels and what it was to get to wherever I got to in my career, I want to do that maybe when I hang the shoes up for the last time, and then I can kind of reminisce and look back, and then and maybe allow myself to be complacent about then. But what I do know is there is no better feeling than doing what you love and doing it well and being able to provide. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. I love what I do, and so being able to do all that and still give to my family is very important to me.
Yeah, and I know one thing that sticks out to me, I remember after your 10th major, the PBA, it was against Bloodshrift, I'm sorry.
The 11th, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember you were telling Kimberly Preston, like, if I could put into words what this means, I would. But the words just aren't coming to me.
Very seldomly am I lost for words. Tonight is one of those moments where if I could express in English what is feeling right now inside, it wouldn't make any sense to anyone.
I'm sure that after a few more years, it's sunk in, the most majors, 31 titles?
Sure.
Yeah. Just take me through your process and trying to process that and what it means to you.
Yeah, I think when you reach a milestone or you surpass a record and you look at the name that held it prior, and in that particular instance, we're talking about Earl Anthony and Pete Weber with the most majors up until then.
Legends.
Well, not only legends, but arguably, Earl in particular, the greatest bowler of all time, and Pete definitely the most entertaining and most talented player to have ever bowled. And so when you see your name above that, it hits you across the face pretty hard. You're like, holy jeez, these are two people that never in my wildest dreams would my name be equal with them, let alone pass them. And so at that moment, it was one of those things where you realize what you've just accomplished, and it was hard to really put that into words. But now, for me, it was a milestone, but the goal is still, to get to 20. That's the goal. There's a big responsibility when you have been thrusted into a position due to your successes that you have a larger responsibility, not just for your own career, but for the sport in general. And so I take that very seriously. But I'd like to think that whilst my role might be a little larger than some, You know, I feel like all bowlers have a similar responsibility, maybe at a different level or a different reach, but I really do believe, like, even when I was young, I still wanted to promote the game, and I still wanted to introduce new people to it, and even though my reach and my successes weren't where they are today, it has always meant a lot to me to grow the game, and I do. I think if you're watching this and yourselves, you know, we have a responsibility to give back to the game that we love.
Kind of being a star where you are, sort of thing, as the saying goes.
Yeah, you never forget where you've come from,
Yeah.
but you've also got to remember, you know, when something gives something to you, and it doesn't matter what it is. In this case, we're talking about bowling, but I still look at it as friendships and relationships. You know, when you get something, or that you're given something from someone you love, to me, the way I was raised, it's important to return that favor, to give something back. And this game has given me everything. It's given me travel. It's given me friendships that have lasted a lifetime. It's given me the ability to provide for my family beyond anything that I could probably do in my hometown if I were to stay home. And so when you see things and you put it into that perspective, it's important to say thank you. And this is, you know, doing events like this and traveling around and promoting the game is just one way for me to say thank you.
Sure. So last question, Jason. What do you think sets you apart? And, you know, stemming off of that, how do you stay as consistent as you have? I mean, your consistency, I think it's safe to say, has been remarkable. And in those two regards, how do you feel that you maintain that?
Yeah, you know, I don't really dive into the other players' processes and their practice schedules. So I don't know where I differentiate from them in those areas because I just don't know. But the one thing I can tell you is something I pride myself on is the ability to just never give up. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting at the bottom of the ladder or at the top. Well, it doesn't matter. It's just every single time I throw the ball down the lane, I want to get the maximum amount of pins I possibly can. And I feel like that inner fighter in me has contributed to a lot of victories, or at least a lot better performances than perhaps some other players may not have achieved because you know, they kind of threw the towel in a little early, and so something I'll never do.
Sure. Yeah, I like that insight. But I think that's all we got. Jason, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Truly an honor.
Peace.
And yeah, I'll see you guys later.